Hi, Christine. Hi, Anami. Hi, Janet. Oh, Janet, I haven't seen you in forever. It's so nice to see your lovely face. Hi, James or Jim. I never know what to call you. Hi, Arlette. Welcome, welcome. While I get things going after I introduce you, Jason, I'm going to pop off and try and get us back into Facebook. I just have to reconnect the link every, I don't know, like 6-12 months. It just undoes itself and I have to redo it. It's kind of a, I don't know, pain in the patootie. But we are recording and I'll just chop this very beginning part off before I post it everywhere, put it on YouTube and all that. But hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm sure there's going to be more people coming in once they see us on Facebook. Today is Jason Gobeli, the spotlight guest host for May in Hypnotherapy Uncensored. And I don't know if you know, but he actually had me on his podcast a couple of months ago. And I just found out something really exciting that I was so surprised at. He said that out of all the podcast interviews he's done, mine was the one with the most views. Like, what? Anyway, I'm still kind of blown away by that. But thank you for a wonderful, wonderful ego boost to start the day. Jason Gobeli is a multifaceted individual driven by a passion for personal growth and helping others. You can see that too in his groups and what he does online. He's definitely all about, just giving more than he takes and helping others. Certified hypnotist and an ordained minister. Believe it or not, so am I. I don't know if you knew that, but I am. I'm an ordained minister. I am so not religious at all, but I am an ordained minister. He combines his unique skill set to guide individuals on transformative journeys through his modality of FFL infused hypnosis. And he's going to tell you all about that in just a moment. And he integrates, I guess I'm going to give it away a little bit, faith, forgiveness, and love. But he's going to tell you what the modality is about. Jason is a married father of 3, grandfather of 1, deeply committed to his family and community, and a successful entrepreneur in the real estate business, among other things, is my understanding when I was doing a little mild stalking of you earlier. Beyond his professional pursuits, he actively contributes to the recovery community through volunteer work. That is something near and dear to my heart as well. And a co-creator of the podcast Hypno-Travelers of the Magical Psyche Highway, of which yours truly has the highest number of views. And this focuses on alternative methods of healing, which just further amplifies his voice and passion for personal transformation. His background as a real estate broker, certified negotiation expert, all these things sort of helped him hone his communication skills and persuasive skills. And he's spoken nationally, teaching real estate seminars, sharing his expertise with a wider audience, 40 years of experience in the sales industry, and he possesses a wealth of knowledge and practical insights into human behavior and motivation. And so for today, before I have him come on, I do want to just let you know that there's now almost 4 years worth of these spotlight guest host interviews available on our YouTube channel. And I'm going to pop that into the chat bar here in a moment. So you can go subscribe and like, and I've got all kinds of people over the past 3.5, almost 4 years. And you can also find them in the Hypnotherapy Uncensored Facebook group in the actual group feed. So just put in a search for the live events. Okay, so we are going to be streaming live in a moment, but I am recording you. So I hope you stay on. But if for whatever reason you don't want your lovely face forever and all time in YouTube, then you might want to go off now. But I would prefer if you stay on. I think Jason would too. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just hand it over to Jason. I did not ask you yet whether you want people to pop questions into the chat box or just raise their hand while you're going. So why don't you straighten that up first real quick? What would you like them to do as far as responses?
Real easy, whatever's most comfortable for them.
Okay, all right. So just pop them into the chat box and then I'll read them off when there's like a sort of natural break. And so why don't you go ahead and tell us, you've got 4 projects you're working on. The first 3 have to do with this FFL modality that's a little bit, I don't know, it seems a little mysterious to me and I wanna learn all about it.
Oh, great,
So
great.
take it away.
Well, first, I'm Jason Gobeli, and I want to welcome you guys. I'm glad you're here. I certainly appreciate you coming to hear what we what I have to say and listen to me share a little bit about this. So she went over a little bit about me, and most most of it's true, especially what other people say. So we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I want to talk about the FFL modality, I guess, because that's why I'm here. And it looks like I froze. Can you guys hear me well? I bounce around a little.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if
You did freeze, but we can still hear you. Yeah.
you can still hear me. Okay, well, that's good. Well, the FFL modality is a modality that I've written, and what I've done is I've, in my practice with hypnosis, I realized that each individual is unique, and each individual has their own method to get to their healing power. I call it their source, but you could call it God or the universe or Jesus or Buddha or Allah or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. But each person has a source of healing. And I have a belief that when we attach that source, it just amplifies the method of healing because it's coming in contact with that person's power, that person's source. So give me a second here. I don't like that froze. Is that better? So anyway,
Yes.
so this is my book. I wrote a book. It's called Infused Hypnosis, the Transformative Power of the FFL Modality. So that's my book. It's available on Amazon, and it goes through it. Now it's an easy read. It's a light book. Yeah, I even put myself on my back on the back. I thought that was kind of funny. But the thing of it is it helps go through this and helps introduce the FFL modality. Now, when I wrote this book, I could have used anyone to write it because I'm a big believer that spiritual laws, spiritual principles transcend religion. But I'm here in the United States. So what I did was I used the teachings of Jesus Christ in order. Now, it's not a religious book, so let's step back for a second. This is not preachy, but it uses that for the principles in order to use for these spiritual laws that we can practice in our hypnosis practices and our change work practices and help other people grow and get to where they need to be. So it's just a wonderful thing. So I'll give you some examples here, just so that you can see. In the very beginning, a lot of people, especially a faith-based, say that theirs is the only path. But if we really look at the teachings of Jesus, he welcomed the Samaritan woman who was of a different faith, welcomed him with love. When the prostitute was being stoned, he welcomed her with love. So I use that principle to welcome people in where they're at, exactly where they're at. And we use their belief system because, after all, aren't our clients the most important? And I said here, and even as I said here and say that, because they're the ones who do all the heavy lifting anyway. Before I came on tonight, I'm thinking last night, we speak 3 times. Before we speak, what we think we're going to say. And then after we speak, what we thought we should have said. And then the time we speak is exactly what we're supposed to say. But I was thinking, I'm going to have nothing to say. I was thinking maybe it's imposter, a little bit of that imposter syndrome going on. But the more I think about it, it's not for me anyway. All I'm doing is sharing some laws that are there. Now, when I use the examples of Jesus in my book, it's not really about using that. It's about learning the lessons behind it. See, and this man was a great use of metaphor. Great use of things like this. Great, especially in the practice of forgiveness. So I start with faith, and this is, like I shared before, we invite people in with their faith, whatever it may be. And it's interesting because it can be with different religions or different sources, but I've heard and seen miracles happen. Well, they seem to be miracles anyway. But what happens is that there'll be people from the United States that will maybe go on a mission to another country, and nothing will happen here. But when they show up in that other country and they have these people and they talk to these people, and these people actually believe that the power lies there, they get healed. There's people that get up that couldn't walk that walk. There's people that couldn't see that see. So that connection that we all have with that healing power in our unconscious mind, that source lies within us. It's just a matter of getting in touch with that source. Now, I can't put that source in my clients, but my clients already have it in them. It's just a matter of allowing them to get in touch with their source, and for me being in touch with, with mine. I prefer to use the word God, my source too. And I'm not trying to preach here. I don't want you to think this is preachy, because it's beyond religion. But it's a sense of getting that higher being, that higher self, that healing power, and using that in the connection. And prayer is like positive affirmation and repeating. It's all kind of in the same thing. I mean, for years, I was in the sales industry. For years, I've done self-hypnosis tapes to help communicate better, to help be more intuitive, and to help, just to work on these kind of things. The same principles that are in the powers of positive, they're also in faith-based things. So faith is important. So I try to get in the very beginning, we use it. If they happen to say that they believe this or they believe that, then we're going to do that ahead of time. If I'm dealing with someone who's Christian, we're going to say, okay, let's pray and invite Jesus. If I'm dealing with someone who's Wiccan, then I'm going to go, okay, then let's call on your spirit powers right now. Whatever you believe in, let's bring it in. And we call on it ahead of time. So we invite that healing source that's within them into the session. Now, the next thing that's important, I think it's really important, is the forgiveness part. I like that ho'oponopono stuff. It's all of us. We carry this stuff inside us where we need to learn how to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. And when we can get free from that, we can get free from that muck. This stuff binds us. I mean, it tears us apart. And I know I said all of us, but I'm just sharing for me. I mean, if I want to be real, I can be honest and tell you that we deal with things. Life happens and we deal with things. And so we need to get to this point where we can get freedom from, I like to use the word muck, freedom from the muck that we get stuck in that keeps us from getting there. And the way we do that is we got to bring everything into now. I'm not a big believer in that. I've known people, and it's happened to me, that things that have happened back in 1973 affect what's going on in my life today. And I got to let 1973 be 1973. And here's the other thing. We can't change it. A lot of times, and this may be a little bit more controversial, but a lot of times people will try to go back to the past and take the event and flip it and say, well, let's pretend like this happened or this happened. We can't change the past. The past happened, and that's the reality of it. But we can accept it for what it is and stop the past for changing our today. I've heard a method that I really, really like. It's called a DVD method. And what happens is that we put our life on a DVD, and that traumatic event from that past, that thing from the past, it's there. We can't erase it, but we can scratch the DVD so we don't have to play it over and over again. And I think that's cool. We can keep the lessons that are there because it's there, but we don't have to bring it into to today. Now, sometimes some of the wounds that happened in the past come into today. So I'm a big believer that in this whole forgiveness portion, we need to learn how to forgive ourselves and love ourselves and make things happen to ourselves. Also, and I write about it in the book, and we'll talk about it in the things, but I'm also believing that if you want to really learn how to forgive others and forgive ourselves, there's a process to this. And it can happen with hypnosis, but I think it also needs to happen physically in real life. So one of the things is we need to quit the behavior that we're doing. Like, it's easy to come to say someone, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and then repeat the actions over and over again. You know, that's like whenever I was a teenage kid and I said, I'm sorry, Mom. You know I owe you 20 bucks, but if you could just lend me another 20 till next week, everything's going to be okay and I can get back on my feet again. I'm repeating the same behavior over again. So one is we need to stop the behavior. But two, we need to make right the wrong. So the way to make right the wrong is, well, I'll use that same example. Hey, Mom, here's the 20 bucks back. You know what I mean? Make right the wrong. When you do somebody wrong, you need to make it right. So that helps clean up that muck. And then we can get to a point where we get to freedom. Because when we can get to that point of freedom, so then we can get to the point of love. So it's the faith, where in the session we bring in the faith for the healing. Then we work on the healing through the forgiveness. So it's definitely forgiveness oriented hypnotherapy, I guess you would say. And then the bottom line is love-based change work. Because when we get to that point of love, then we can say, where's the love in it? Like before I act, because we affect each other. In relationships, I don't know about what you guys think, but I think that relationships are the most important things in our lives. The most important things in our lives are our relationships. If I'm on my deathbed and I'm getting ready to die, the most important thing is not how much money I have, not how many books I've sold, not anything, not what kind of car I have or the house. The most important thing is who's next to the bed with who's beside my bed, who I care.
And not how flat your belly is. Let's just add that for the women.
You're absolutely right.
It's not how flat your belly is.
We're
not going to be lying on our beds going like, oh my gosh, I wish I'd spent more time worrying about my size. Never.
Say that because it kind of fits on, and I have it on my YouTube page. I didn't have the link here, but I do have it on my YouTube page. You can probably find it through the thing. But last year I gave and this you're gonna, I think you women will love this, and I'll explain to you exactly how it works ahead of time. I probably shouldn't because it'll ruin the thing if you take it. But I gave for Christmas, I gave away a free hypnofacial a couple days before Christmas, so you could get rid of the wrinkles. And at the beginning, what we do is I focus on and have you focus on, and it sets up a trance. We focus on looking at our face and all the imperfections, the wrinkles, the marks. And then we know that they come from, you know, those things from the past, the letdowns, the shame, the guilt, the all that life experience shows up in our face. And then what we do is we go to youth, and we go to a point of youth. And then we take that youth and we put it into a nice ball. You pick the color. And then we can relax our face, start to relax the muscles in our face, and apply the youth into our face. And then when you're done with this, you can actually turn on your camera and you'll see the difference. You'll look in your eyes and you can see the difference. And it's interesting that I say this because I love to use the eyes. Even under trance, I have a person look into their eyes. This works really well. I've had it work with, the other day I had this guy who, he ran a gym. Big dude, big, strong dude. It was actually, we were working on a smoking sensation, but I knew there was more. And I used my FFL approach. And I used a little bit of the Ho'oponopono stuff on him. But what I had him do is I had him in his trance look in the mirror and let the eyes in the head meet the eyes in the mirror, because of course the eyes are the window to the soul. And I had him love and forgive himself. And he broke down and started crying in his trance. And I know that this is powerful when we can tell ourselves and heal ourselves and be there for ourselves and help ourselves get there. We don't need to have an excuse or a reason to forgive ourselves. We don't have to have an excuse or a reason to forgive others. Now, if I want to really get here and open up to this, then what I guess I really should do is be more vulnerable with you. And just let that, Carissa, you have to do this to me. You have to tell me, Jason, it's time for you to shut up, because otherwise I'll just talk. But when you tell me it's time for questions or time, just tell me. And if anyone has any questions, you can stop me on, because I'll just talk. But I'm going to be a
Do you
vulnerable.
know what the rules are? Do you know
No,
what the rules are for Hypnotherapy Uncensored? It's
I
in the
know.
title. It's
I,
uncensored.
and,
So
and
this
I'm
is
not
your
good,
opportunity to let us know who you are. I'm
and
not going to censor you.
I'm not good with rules anyway. But
Good.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to be raw with you guys. I'll tell you a little bit about me, and I'll tell you a little bit about my experience and how I can get to the point where I can get a point of freedom from that muck. I come from a different life. When I was 11 years old, my dad, he OD'd in the backyard. The last time that I saw him was on Thanksgiving Day, and he OD'd, and we couldn't get a ambulance in time, so we got a taxi to pick him up, take him to the hospital. And I was the oldest of four boys. I had my youngest brother was one, so I had a lot of anger that he would leave us like that. Well, there came to be a point in my life. It took many years. And by the way, I went on the same path that he went on, where I got involved in a lot of dark areas, especially in my younger years. But later in my life, I came to a point where I was ready to practice forgiveness, where I could forgive him, forgive myself for my stuff, and to make an amends. And I tried to do some of the things that others had said, write a letter to him saying what's really going on and how you really feel, things like that. And I remember the day clear that I was visiting. I went back to Western Maryland, and I went over and was going to go by his graveyard. I was driving down the road, and it was raining, and I saw a flower in the woods, and I said, I'm going to take this to my dad. And I went to take the flower in the woods to my father. And when I went to take the flower to him, I got out of the car. It took a while to find his tombstone. I had to pull grass away from it, but I found it, and I knelt down to give him the flowers. And I realized as I was getting drenched in the rain that that whole thing was never for him. It was always for me. And I felt a cleansing, because at that moment, I looked at him as a human being and not as a father, because my whole life I had put the word father on him. And when I put the word dad or father on him, then I had expectations that I thought that a dad or a father could be. So when I could strip away that label and allow him as being a human being going through the hurt and the pain that he was going through, I mean, I'm sure being stuck in drug addiction that he thought he was terrible for his four kids. He probably beat himself up every single day and went through so much pain. And when I could look at him this way, my anger just kind of like melted away. You know, I got a freedom from that, and I got a peace from that. And it was a process that I had to go through. But I learned some major stuff, is that we need to strip the labels from people in our relationships. And we do this all the time. And I say we because I just assume everybody's like me. But you know, if my kid doesn't act the way that I expect my son to act, then I get upset and say, maybe you should do things differently. That's not what it's about. I need to allow him to be his own individual. I mean, I got experience with this. My son a few years ago came out of the closet. It's not something that I was thinking, but I have to accept. I don't have to. I want to accept and love him for who he is. He's a great kid, and his views and things on life may be different than mine, but we accept them. It gets to a point where if I can get rid of this, the muck, that stuff that we get stuck in, all that pain, all that hurt, all that ugliness that's inside us, if we can get rid of that, we can open ourselves up to a point of freedom and love. And then when we talk with others, we can say, well, where's the love in it? You know? And so every day on social media, I'm trying to do this. I was talking with Chris. I have my group that I'm on. I started. It's a healing community. I'd love to have you guys there. There's so much that I can. You all have love in you that you could share with us and just spread throughout the world. You know. And yesterday, one of my messages was it was actually from page 77 in my book. It's our lives. We go around and we think, oh, we need to find that love. And we're looking here for it, or we're looking here for it, or this one. We even change who we are and the way we act sometimes to try to find this feeling. And the truth is that the love is inside us. We look outside to find it, but it's really inside us because we have a light inside us. We have the love inside us that once we share it with others, it attracts others who are on the same wavelengths to us. So, you know, I just think it's so powerful how, like if you take a stone and you throw it in the river, it just has this ripple effect, and love has a ripple effect. So I try before I act, I try to think, well, where's the love in it? And so I have this, like I said, I have my book where we talk about it. And I think I've went pretty extensive into the faith and the forgiveness to get to the point of love. But then I also use it for my program that I started. It's called, and you can find it on my website. It's called the FFL 6-week blueprint, 6-week blueprint to relationship transformation. Now,
and is that, hold on, is that the website www.go-under.com?
Go Under, is that pretty cool or what? I was surprised.
I like that. Go Under trans.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that the right one? Okay. Let me just make sure that I put that back up.
yeah, my email
Because
address.
there's some.
My email address is actually go.under.trans@gmail.com.
Go.under.trans.
Anyway,
Okay,
so
I'll put that up here too.
so
There you go.
my 6-week transformational program, I have it set up for relationships because in my belief, relationships are the most important things we have in our lives. Seriously. I mean, I talked about this before. Our relationship with others is the most important thing that we have. I mean, when we really think about it, I can say, dude, I love my house, but I don't love my house as much as my wife and my kids. I don't love my house as much as my friends. You know, our relationships are way more important. So anyway, sometimes we need to heal these relationships. And sometimes we get stuck. So I have a program that's for individuals. It's 6 weeks where we go through it. A lot of it has to do with hypnosis, but then there's also a lot of it that's just relationship coach stuff. It's just how to act. Are you acting in love? What are you doing? Are you being selfish? Are you giving and caring? You know, and anyway, the individual is for that person who gets stuck in a habit of toxic relationships. But then I do the one with the couples, a couples session. And the couples is different because if I'm really going to practice my faith and forgiveness and love, the first week is actually 3 hypnosis sessions because everyone's individual, right? And so I have to have a session with the one spouse to find out where their source of energy is and where their power is. And look, if I had them all in the same room, if I had them both in the same room at the same time, the one who's more dominant and always would talk over the conversation. I wouldn't understand what was going on with this one over here, right? So I have to talk to this one to find out, you know, I mean, it can happen where, you know, let's say it's a husband and a wife, and the husband says, yeah, I think that our relationship's at probably about an 8, and the wife says it's about a 2, right? So it's got to find out where the person's at. And then we got to work with that person And then we got to work with the two together to combine to, to be willing to even work on it. And then I also have a family program too, and that's even more difficult because that's more than three because I have other individuals involved. And a lot of times with a family, and I don't know, some of you guys might have families, that kid gets alienated. They feel unheard. They feel like the parents always trying to control them and they don't have a voice of their own. Or sometimes I call it tanking. The 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 husband and the mother and the father will get into an argument, especially like in a divorce place or something like that. And they'll get into the argument, and all that negative energy gets thrown down in the kids because they feel it. They feel that energy. They feel that pain. They feel all that. So there's things that need to be healed. And it's not necessarily that I can heal it, but there's just principles and laws and things that are out there that have been there for years that are healed. I'll tell you one of the things that I like to share about, and that's, I think one of the most dangerous things that we do is you statements. When we do you statements, here's the way I see this. If I'm driving down the road and I'm saying, I feel this, and when this happens, this is how I feel, and this is my feelings, and this is what I go, then what I'm doing is I'm driving on my side of the road in my lane because I'm talking about my feelings and what's going on inside of me. However, if I say, well, I did this because you did this, or I feel this, well, you did this to me, and this is how this makes me feel because of what you did. Well, what happened is I jumped from my feelings to them on their side of the road. And when I start driving on their side of the road, pretty soon there's going to be an accident. Because what happens is that you statements can be very offensive. They can be hurtful. They can be offensive. And when someone feels like they're being offended, they try to protect themselves. And that appears as offensive. And there goes the dance. And for some of you guys,
I've always said that for many years. Every defense appears as an offense to the other person.
exactly. And it starts,
Especially if the other person isn't expecting it, and suddenly you get defensive and they don't even know what they did to cause you to get defensive, and then it really feels like an attack.
it starts the
And
dance.
then guess what? The other person gets defensive. Yeah.
And
Oh,
then,
our silly egos.
and then something that happened 5 years ago comes up in today because the dance has already started. That dance that's been started over and over and over again. So we need to like break those cycles and move on from that, and get to that point where we can just love, right? I mean, isn't that what we're all here for anyway? Is to help each other, to love each other, to build each other up, and to grow. I mean, I would think that that's what we all want anyway, and to be free from that stuff. Now, I'll share some another experience. I'm married today. I've been married to my wife. We've been together for over 30 years. Been faithful. I love my wife, love my kids, love my family. But before that, I was married before. And I wasn't faithful, and it wasn't a good marriage. And I'll share something. I had to go through a process to get to healing from that. And a lot of it had to do with me. And I had someone that helped me through this. And this has to do with the process of forgiveness. And this might explain a little bit. So even though I wasn't great, and even though I was a terrible husband at the time, I had to go back and I had to like clean up that mess. I had to go back and try to make things right. So after the divorce, I knocked on her door in order to clean up my mess and try to make my amends. And when I knocked on the door, I said, here, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Well, she was having dinner with that 17-year-old kid that she was sleeping with whenever we were married. I went, oh, God. I didn't know what to do. She said, I can't talk to you right now. Can you come back in an hour? So I went and I talked to a friend of mine, a mentor. He said, man, what am I going to do? He goes, you're going to go back in an hour. I said, what am I going to say? And he goes, you're going to say everything that you've done. He goes, you're going to clean up your mess. He goes, you're going to make everything right that you've done wrong. And you're not going to talk about her, talk about the other guy. You're not going to say, I did this because you did that. You're not going to say anything of that. You're not going to go on her side of the street. You're going to stay on your side of the street. He goes, when you do that, he goes, you're going to get freedom. She goes, all that other stuff is her stuff. But when you get up in the morning to brush your teeth, when the eyes in the mirror meet the eyes in the head, you need to be comfortable in your own skin. And you need to get your freedom from all this stuff that you're carrying from this. And that's what I did. And he was absolutely right. And get this, before I even did this and followed his advice, I didn't think the guy would know anything about it or know anything about relationships because he was gay. But how could you know about what's going on in a marriage when you're not coming from where I'm coming from? But what I learned is these spiritual laws, they transcend anything, faith, religion, sexual identity, in anything. It's just more powerful than all that. It's like a light. If you go into the room and it's a dark room, if you turn on the light, the darkness disappears. It goes away, it hides. So that's the way that I just believe this works. So
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
So that's why I was inspired to write the book. And then
and what is the book called again?
It's called,
I'm going to write it down.
There's the cover. It's called, I put the link there, I think. It's called Infused Hypnosis.
The link didn't end up hyperlinking the one for the book. So that's why I'm just going to put the title. So what is it?
My name, it'll come up on Amazon. It's called Infused Hypnosis.
Okay.
Unlocking the Transformative Power of the FFL Modality. It's really just infused hypnosis. Because all we're doing is hypnosis with faith, forgiveness, and love. And get this, I'm not original.
Wait, hold on. The transformative power of the faith, forgiveness, and love?
The
the FFL modality.
Okay. FFL modality.
I just want to make sure I get the title exactly as it is. And you were talking faster than I could write. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
And I'm not original. I mean, this stuff, faith, forgiveness, and love, spiritual laws, they've been around longer than I've been around. These things have been around forever. I mean, Jesus used it, and I'm sure that Buddha used it, Muhammad used them, and Moses used them, and they've been around forever. But they work, they're laws. It's like gravity, you know? It's love will always be stronger than apathy, you know. And so anyway, so that's where that came from. I know I said I was also going to talk about, and that's how that FFL modality wraps in all those projects that I'm doing. I'd love to see you guys on my community, by the way, you know, in the Facebook community. I'd love to see you contributing, because, you know.
And what is the name of the Facebook community, so I can get that in the chat too?
I put the link there. The Facebook community is called The Love Journey, the FFL Way. And all we're there is it's just a community for us to help each other, and for us to help each other grow, and help each other, you know, learn to love ourselves, and then take that love. You can't give away what you don't have, but that's another story. I'll have to get into that one another day. I did want to give a quick shout out to, like I said, Chris has been our top viewed podcast, but we do have the podcast too. And I'm with a lot of hypnotists here. I think you guys would love our podcast. Our podcast is called the Hypno-Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. I do it with Scott Prevet. He's a hypnotist and he's also a magician. But the thing about this is that we travel each week down someone else's magical psyche highway. Most of the time it's hypnotists, but we travel down some other interesting highways sometimes. And we've had some phenomenal guests. I've been surprised and shocked with some of the guests that we've had. I mean, we've had Mike Mandel and Chris Thompson and Timothy September, of course, but we've also had Chrissa, who's got more views than anyone else out there. We've had Scott Sandlin. We've had Kaz Riley, we've had Tim Scher, I mean, just some Rich Guzzi, some phenomenal hypnotists. And we've had some that are a little crazier too, and it's fun. We've had Jonathan Royal on the show, so we've had some definitely different approaches. But it's what I found is that we're all individuals, and not everybody agrees. And it's good to listen to all the other points, because that way we can be open, and when we can be open, we can truly learn, right? So yeah, so that makes it nice. So I don't know how much time I've taken or anything. Have I done my portion here, Chris, or what am I supposed to be doing? Talk to me.
So it's you have 15 minutes, and yep. So I just sort of hang back and wait until it seems like I'm needed, and then I pop in. And so here's what I would like to do. One question that I love to ask people when there's room and space to do this is, what is the most interesting or unexpected or phenomenal situation that has ever come up with you regarding hypnosis and hypnotherapy?
The most
And you can think on that for a minute think on that for a moment while the rest of us wish you a happy birthday. It's going to be Jason's birthday in a couple of weeks. I think you said the 16th, yes?
62,
Yes,
man.
happy birthday to you.
I
That's
thought
fantastic.
the way I was living, I thought I'd be dead by 35 like my dad. So everything else,
Well, yeah, it sounds like you broke that generational trauma wide open.
yes, it's definitely good. And my kids don't have to go through that either, thank God. Anyway, yeah, so
Yes.
it's interesting because you say the most thing with hypnosis, and
Mhm.
I'm a big believer that we're always in a trance. And what I find is,
Okay, well, specifically,
I know
because this is an audience of hypnotists,
I know I'm getting there.
right?
I'm getting there.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm
Go
getting there.
ahead.
I do believe that we're always in a trance, but I find that the most powerful things that happen to me is not necessarily when I'm in the trance, but sometimes when I come out of the trance and then go back in at a later time. And I go through a lot of stuff, and interesting enough, in the shower, when I'm taking a shower, my mind kind of wanders. And sometimes I'll just get some stuff that'll just be so like, oh wow, that's it. And I don't know if it was a result from what happened before that I don't remember, or of anything else, but it's just, it goes there. So for me, it's there. For others, there's some dynamic stuff that happens when I see that their life changes, and truly makes an effect in their lives. And sometimes it can be with a trance, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be in a trance. We can get a lot of stuff done in the pre-talk. And a lot of stuff, but the difference is when we see lives change, not just change in the fact that they say, oh my God, I've had an awakening and I've changed, because it's real easy to talk. I mean, talk's cheap, right? I'm talking about change when we see the change in the behavior, change in the actions, change in the relationship that they have with the other person, where it's like, dude, we used to fight all the time, but we're getting along so much better. Everything's been nice, and sometimes we need to take those little reminders, like, maybe I need to get the hell off their side of the street.
So what about with you? If you look at yourself, your life now compared to even just, I don't know, let's say 5 years ago, have you noticed any sort of retroactively noticed any major changes that you could say, yeah, that's most likely a result of doing this deep inner work?
Every day. See, every day is new.
Anything specific?
Yeah, every day is new. So we get a new deck every day. If I knew what was going to happen tomorrow, I wouldn't have to worry about it, but it's a new day. So everything's going to be fresh. So my life has changed a lot. Specifically in my life, some of the things that are going on, I live here in the house with my wife. Both of my sons are out. My son with the grandson's out. My other son's out. My daughter's living with us still, and she helps take care of my father-in-law who lives with us. 20 years ago, my
Wow.
my mother-in-law died, and my father-in-law moved in with us. He's 98 years old. He has Alzheimer's. He's 98. He kicked COVID in October. We take care of him. We get up in the middle of the night when he has to get up. We got alarms on him and stuff like that. We've been taking care of him for 20 years. You know, of course my life changes. We learn new things. We learn how to be more loving and caring. There was a time when I wouldn't be like that at all, where if it wasn't in it for me, then I wouldn't have anything to do. But we learn differently. And, you know, my life changed with my younger son when he came out of the closet. I had to look at things differently. My life changed with my older son when he moved away from us. My life changed when my grandkid was born. And with the hypnosis, it all comes into that play. It's when things are different. I've been hypnotized several times. I've done several mindscapes. I've changed things in my future. I've changed things like that's happening in my mindscapes and things like this. I've done timeline work. I remember, but you know what the timeline, I think the funnest thing with the timeline work is where we put the timeline on a string and then bend the timeline and make spots connect. Because it's just so cool, because then we can get in touch with that part of the pain in the past and heal that. So we get to go through all kinds of things. And so, specifically, I think we change every day. We're like,
of course we do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
does
thank you.
anyone else have any other questions for me now? Because that's what I wanted to leave some time for that. If anybody has any questions or any insights that you want to share with me, I'd love to hear your insights.
Anybody? Questions, insights, anything that you want to ask of
Wait.
Jason about his modality, about his life?
Let me wake you up. There, did that work?
No, actually, you've got your microphone set to like block out all background noises. So I couldn't hear anything. That's funny.
I was trying to wake everybody up.
Oh no, it's fine. No, this was lovely. Thank you so much, Jason. And yeah, I'm very curious about the book. I'm gonna go ahead and get the book. And I just love supporting my fellow colleagues and these things too. So I have put, what's that?
Oh, it's going to say, speaking of report, leave me a review after you've read it. Just put down.
I will. Yeah, I'll go into Amazon and do that. I do that regularly. And I have put all of the links to the side here. So there is the Love Journey Facebook group. There is the YouTube channel where you'll find all of my previous interviews. There's the Hypno-Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway, which is also on YouTube. And then Infused Hypnosis, Unlocking the Transformative Power of the FFL Modality is the title of the book. You can look it up in Amazon or look it up by Jason Gobeli. And honestly, your podcast is one of my favorites. And I am really picky about podcasts. And that's not just because you invited me on it, honestly, and this is so like kind of embarrassing, but I didn't know about your podcast until you invited me on it. But then I started like, looking who else you've had on it and just like, what? Oh, Leslie Edmondson just said she loves your podcast. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. There's only like 3 podcasts that I listen to regularly, and yours is one of them now. So
thank you.
yeah, and I've only heard a handful, but I've really enjoyed. You great at like picking hosts, and you do leave a lot of opportunity for people to really just express themselves, which I love. Each person that's come on seems like they've just really opened up, and that's such a beautiful thing. So thank you so much. And I also wanted to say that lastly, if you feel that you benefit from these bi-monthly live events, I do all of this for free, and there's no promos or marketing or stuff like that other than just like in the group, and it's all 100% for members of this group. The full title of our group is Hypnotherapy Uncensored, Building a Better Practice. So the whole point of this is just to learn from everybody, all the different modalities, all the different approaches, all the different. So if you feel you benefit from this, feel free to kick in $2 in your notes of appreciation, and I'll make sure that I put that link into the actual Facebook group so you can do that. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Jason, thank you so much for coming. I didn't even realize that we had so much in common as far as like we're both ordained ministers, and I have a very similar outlook to religious figureheads. I'm not religious at all. I don't even really consider myself spiritual. I just consider myself vibing at a high frequency of consciousness. So whatever you want to call that, baby. But I absolutely love all of the different teachings of these ascended masters, for lack of a better term, right? And they all basically say the same thing. Every one of them. Love. Love is the glue that holds the universe together. So I want to be vibing with all that. I
You
know I
want to
totally sound like a
you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
So
We have a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
it's a quick funny story, and it's gonna be why I became an ordained minister. So when I was teaching real estate seminars, I used to do the no money down real estate seminars across the United States, and I teach real estate all the way across the United States. On Saturday, before you ask for the money in the big sale, because I do the 3-day seminars and then introduce them to the bigger packages. Well, I would do this thing, and I didn't know it was hypnosis because I didn't do hypnosis. Well, I didn't think I did hypnosis at the time, but it was hypnosis, where I'd have everyone close their eyes and I'd have them find out what was important to them. And I tell them that they're on their deathbed and you can see all your loved ones there, and you find out what the really important thing was in your life. Well, when I did that, one day I did it, and this woman jumped up afterwards and she goes, "How dare you do that? You're not a licensed therapist. You're not a minister. You're not nothing." She goes, "How can you do that to us?" And I thought, oh. So I went home that night and I looked online how I could get an ordained minister's license online. And I thought, well, let's not do the easy one where you just sign up for it. Let's actually take some classes. So I took some classes and got it, and that's how I got my license, and that's why I got my license. But then later on, it came real helpful, with marrying people and things like that later on. But it was interesting how the universe led me down that path where it was just, oh, dude, I don't want to cut this out of my seminar. I better get ordained real fast.
That's great. Mine came about because I had some gay friends who wanted to get married, but the state that we lived in, it was really tricky. And so I became an ordained minister, and then we actually just went slightly over the state line into Canada. And then I was able to marry them. And then we came back and they were married. Yay. So that was why I did it. I've never really used it other than that, but I have it. And I still keep paying the thing so that it re-ups, because who knows, maybe one day I'll marry somebody else. Not me as a partner. That's never happening again, but I might marry other people. So
you never know.
Anyway, no, I know. I can make that decision. Like, even if I fall in love, I'm never getting married again. No, it's just nope, not my thing, not my jam. Do we have any other questions? Anything else that anybody wants to share? Did you guys enjoy today's spotlight? We missed last month because I was doing the live training, so I was glad. And actually, we had somebody else in mind, but that person wasn't able to do it. And I was like, Jason, can I speed you up? So he kind of came in a lot sooner than he was meant to. It was going to be a few weeks from now, and then he was like, I can do it. And I was like, yay! Jason saves the day. So thank you so much, Jason.
Well, I hope I did
awesome.
it justice today.
You totally did, and happy birthday!
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday!
I don't want to celebrate anymore. Just like you don't want to get married. I don't want any more birthdays. I want to live. I just don't want to celebrate the birthdays anymore. I want to go backwards. At 62, it's time to start turning it back.
I'm thoroughly enjoying aging personally. I know that's weird, but I'm liking it. My lower back, maybe not so much, but the rest of me, I'm liking it. I'm kind of liking Arlette's yeah, man, I like that. I don't feel the need to put on anything for anyone ever again. I can just be me. And if I want to show up in the world as a barefoot braless bog witch, I can totally do that now. And it's okay. I guess it was probably always okay, but I was more nervous about other people's opinions back then. And now I'm just whatever, who's with me on that? We got a lot of women in here. You guys, yeah. We can make it a whole society, the Barefoot Braless Bog Witch Society. So anyway, thank you so much, Jason. And I think the world is better off for having you in it. So happy birthday, many more to come. And I'm going to check out your book. It's really wonderful having you. All right. Take care, my dear. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. See ya. Thanks.